Hey, folks, this is Zach Osterman, Insider Indianapolis Star. This is a very serious post-game video, insider video. He's Mike Niziolek, Bloomington Herald-Times. Indiana 31, FIU 7. I don't know if there's – it feels like this is probably kind of the game you should have expected if you were Indiana. There was some good. There were some mistakes. If anything, I think the thing that surprised me most is we spent the whole offseason talking about how good the offense could be and how the defense would have questions. The defense played a lot better, I thought, than the offense today, for at least in terms of a complete performance, fewer mistakes, more probably positive plays if you're talking about charting big plays, sacks, whatever. But I think mostly just, this is kind of what week one tends to look like for a lot of teams. Not perfect, but a win.
Well, I think we should qualify that with saying you did have 400-plus yards, something they only did once against an FBS opponent last year, so they've already equaled that. They had the best first quarter they've had against an FBS opponent in at least 2 years. I mean, they had more yardage and first downs than they had all last season against an FBS opponent. And then, you win by 24. Feels like maybe, like you said, they left a touchdown or two on the table. But, I mean, to still come away with that, to win comfortably – I thought they had some big chunk plays, especially on the ground. I think about a half dozen plays of 10 yards or more. Felt like they were more athletic, like, Kurt's been saying all offseason at the position. And then at receiver, they just kind of rotated through guys. And I think the depth that they showed at both positions is encouraging. So I get your point that it was sort of not of a complete performance, what Cignetti said after the game. But I do think there's some building blocks there. And Rourke obviously showed pretty good command of the offense. I mean, 15 for 24, 180 yards, not numbers that jump off the page, but he was pressured.
He was getting pressured more than I think Cignetti would be
pretty regularly,
yeah.
Escaping that pressure. Only took 2 sacks out of that. So I think there were some good signs there offensively, even though, like you said, the defense probably had a slightly better day. I do think the offense, I think I told you in the second quarter, it felt like an offense. Whereas last year it didn't.
Well, the big thing was they were running the ball, which meant they were staying on schedule, which has been a problem for Indiana. Even
only 2/3 and longs. I think
even back to 2021, Indiana would just fight to stay in second and manageable, third and manageable, kind of consistently. Even as you said, even sometimes against opponents, at the kind of the lower end of the FBS. Running the ball, I thought was encouraging. I thought the offense. Cignetti said the offensive line, can be better. He talked about the pressures of of the 9 Indiana's 9 penalties. The penalties were clearly probably. I think it's probably fair to say the thing that seemed to vex him most, at least watching him on the sideline. 9 for 80 yards. I know that's something he talked about a lot in the preseason and the offseason, that James Madison teams, his JMU teams, were not penalized very much.
We did quick observations. James Madison ranked 15th in the country in terms of penalties the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Last year only had more penalties than IU had today once.
Yeah.
So, you could kind of see.
And I think it was 8 of those penalties, if I'm not mistaken, were offensive.
There was one rough in the passer.
Quite a few of those were holding.
I think one was on special teams, maybe. But, yeah.
But quite a few of those were holding calls. The roughing call I thought was pretty 50-50 on Aiden Fisher, but that was maybe the most negative play of the day for the defense, other than that one. They had that one drive, FIU 12 plays, 75 yards. That was FIU only had 182 yards of offense, so 75 of those, so 107 yards outside that one drive. Whereas, Cignetti said something interesting. He said they were really good kind of early on. They scored on 3 straight drives in the first into the second quarter, and then he said basically we have to learn to play with the lead. That like Indiana was, he felt, at least that to me, his message was Indiana got a little too comfortable. They just started playing with a little bit of complacency.
And I do think this ties into another thing he brought up in the radio show, that at the intro of his press conference today, was that the crowd basically vanished in the second half, and there was no energy in the
Players
stadium.
brought it up too,
and it was dead in here. And I think that does impact the team when you have a lead. And you have that crowd behind you. It gives you that little extra push or that little extra motivation. And the team certainly needed it, because I think there were 1 or 2 plays in the third quarter. This is a laugher, and you don't have to. It's not even close.
Yeah, that's the other part of it is that there's, if Tyson Lawton completes that halfback pass, which is wide open, and he was joking, he was smiling, but clearly frustrated that he didn't make that throw. Then Indiana covers the spread. As you say, all it takes is 1 or 2 more good plays on top of that.
Well, I think they did cover the spread either way. But
it got up to 20. It got up to 24 and a half
early in the week.
I don't gamble.
hopefully those watching.
Yeah. We don't listen, gamble responsibly, please. But it just kind of it struck me, and in fairness, this is what I'm going to write about. But I've been thinking about it a lot since the game ended. Like we talked a lot. Well, I mean, because I've been trying to write my story in my head. We talked all off season about the work Indiana did in the portal offensively, and there were all these pieces and these players that looked interesting and looked good. And then you kind of got to the defensive side, and you said, well, there's questions here, and obviously they addressed some of that in the spring portal, and it was noticeable today. C.J. West had a couple really good moments. D'Angelo Pons had a couple really good moments. He tipped the interception that Amari Farrell pulled in. That was the only turnover of the game on either side. But it just we said kind of all off season like this defense is going to have to win on scheme at times, and not just talent. And I thought actually saw signs of both. You talked about the way they played. It felt like they were playing downhill. It felt like they were attacking. They did a really good job of containing Kyron Jenkins, who's kind of a dual threat quarterback. Did not really hurt them with his legs at all. He took 4 sacks today. They had 8 more tackles for loss. They had him under pressure a whole bunch more times than that. I'm trying to find it because they have advanced stats in these box scores now. Their stuff rate, where's their stuff rate? Rushing success rate, FIU only 27%, which was in line. 7 stuffed runs, so 23% of FIU's runs were stuffed, which is, I think that's like 0 gain or what is it? 0 gain or more or nothing. And then you highlight the other one, big plays. They only allowed what stat broadcast.
Big plays, rushes of 10 plus yards or completions of 15.
So explosive plays, basically. Indiana had 12 of those. FIU only had 1. Like that defense. Even given the competition, even given the level, I think I predicted Indiana to win this game 37-20 in my preseason predictions, and my reasoning was basically I think the offense will click after maybe a little bit of choppiness, but I think the defense is going to need some time. It kind of went the other way around.
Yeah, and I think what you saw, too, is that they didn't rotate much on the back end. The linebackers, Jalen Walker and Aiden Fisher were on the field for all game. Isaiah Jones came in on 3 linebacker sets, but the secondary was kind of the same throughout. Defensive line was kind of the exception. They rotated a lot of guys through to keep them fresh. And they were effective in the second half. I thought, generating sort of being more disruptive. And I just thought the team looked more athletic on defense, covered more ground, felt like they were in position to make the play more than they had been all last season.
Yeah, again, the extent to which, the number of times you feel like that's Jeff Kegg, sports information director extraordinaire, crashing our video. The number of times, as you said, like it's one guy is in the hole, then there's 3 Indiana players filling a gap or something. The number of times you felt like you said, Walker was quietly really impressive to me. I know Fisher was Indiana's leading tackler, but Indiana was pulling Walker all the way to the boundary at times in coverage, and he looked, he didn't look at all.
They combined for 20 tackles, 9 solo. So you can kind of see the impact that they had.
And I think you're also even encouraged by the fact, Tyreek Tucker, the young defensive tackle transfer from James Madison, had some good moments. Marcus Burris had a sack. It's not just the guys that Jameer Johnson, I thought, played well in coverage. It's not just the guys that we've been talking about all offseason. It's the guys that you're going to need to step up because it can't always be Aiden Fisher. It can't always be C.J. West. It can't always be, D'Angelo Pons. It just, no matter what the opponent, if you hold the team under 200 yards of offense and 1 score, that's a good day. And if that's the first game, new staff, new scheme, bunch of new players because of transfers, and a bunch of questions, frankly, about your depth and about the how widespread your impact is going to be from the perspective of maybe finding some playmakers outside of that core you knew would be good for you. That's a good day.
Yeah, we should mention the only really injury today that we know of.
Yeah.
Donovan McCulley got shaken up. It was on his lone catch of the day.
Yeah, he got caught, and as he was getting pulled to the ground, another guy came in, and he didn't come in high, but McCulley was getting pulled down, and he kind of got he hit him he hit him in the head, and it looked like what really hurt was McCulley kind of got his neck stretched.
We didn't see him on the sidelines in the second half. Curt Cignetti, the only thing he could say was he wasn't back in the clear to play. Didn't return to the game after that. When he was kind of just starting, like he said, to kind of get involved a little bit, that, they found him for a 9-yard game, got a first down. And, a lot of fans were questioning because he didn't start, but he was on the field for that second series. They rotated receivers a lot. When he's
they said
healthy,
they would. Receivers and running backs, 7 different receivers caught a pass today.
The 7 different targets,
Yeah.
I think 2 running backs.
All 4 of the running back transfers got at least 1 carry. 3 of them got at least 5. Lawton and Ellison shared 26 between them. Like, they said they were going to rotate those spots a lot, and they did.
Yeah, so, but McCulley, a lot of fan interest in him, obviously, because of obviously local kid and just, all the talent in the world. So it's something to keep an eye on going forward. But they made it through without him. Like you said, production from everywhere. Omar Cooper was the guy that was kind of on the boundary, replacing him, or kind of getting the bulk of the work there. But healthy. This team needs to stay healthy going forward. So I think the injuries are going to be something to watch. Obviously they have 2 first-year starters in the offensive line because of Nick Kidwell's injury. But making it through each week I think will be important because this team, depth-wise, is still trying to establish that.
Any other business?
I'm good.
I think that's all we need to do. Indiana 31, FIU 7. Hoosiers are 1-0, obviously. Western Illinois, for anyone who's made it this far into the video, a friendly reminder, that is a Friday night game. That is Indiana's. It seems like Indiana gets one every year. That is this year's Friday night game. They will be back here for that game Friday night before UCLA at the Rose Bowl the following week. He's Mike Niziolek. I'm Zach Osterman for the Herald Times and the Indianapolis Star. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you soon.